We want to go to Gaza! We want to go to Gaza! We want to go to Gaza! We want to go to Gaza!
This is Judith Pasternak, and I'm in Cairo. It's January 2nd, and I and 1,400 other people were supposed to be in Gaza, marching on New Year's Eve with thousands of Palestinians to demand that Israel end the siege of Gaza and end the occupation. But as you may have heard, the Egyptian government refused to allow us into Gaza, and so we have spent a week in Cairo protesting, demanding that Egypt let us into Gaza and that Israel lift the siege. This is the first WRI conference I'll have missed since 1998. I couldn't come because I was going to go to Gaza, and I'm very sorry that I've missed it, but it was very exciting to be here. It would have been more exciting to be in Gaza, but it was exciting to be here in part because every protest we did was civil disobedience, at least technically, and we were every time surrounded by Egyptian police. We protested on New Year's Eve in the biggest square in Cairo. We marched 100 yards before the police stopped us. We protested at the Israeli embassy. We protested on the steps of the Journalists' Union when Netanyahu was in Cairo. We had a week of protesting one way or another in Cairo. I wish I were with you now. This is some of what we did. Free Gaza.
The night we arrived in Cairo, we planned to take dozens of feluccas, tourist boats, onto the river to place candles in the river to commemorate those killed in the Israeli bombardment and invasion of Gaza that began exactly a year earlier. The Egyptian government shut down the tourist boats before we arrived, and instead we held a candlelight vigil by the Nile.
When do we want it? Now! What do we want? End the siege! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? End the siege! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? End the siege! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? End the siege! When do we want it?
Everywhere we went, we were met with large contingents of Egyptian riot police, who set up double and triple lines between us and the street so that our protests weren't visible to the Egyptian people. We went to the Cairo UN headquarters to ask them to intercede on our behalf with the Egyptian government. Some of the Gaza Freedom March delegates spent the night in the plaza in front of the UN building. The South African delegation received a particularly warm welcome. The French were our touchstone. Beginning on Sunday night, they set up an encampment in front of their own embassy and held a block of the sidewalk for 5 days. Each day they held spirited demonstrations surrounded by 2 rows of riot police. One day they were visited by Luisa Morgantini, a former vice president of the European Parliament.
Your determination is fantastic. So I really think we should stick together with a lot of dignity, like the dignity of the Palestinian people who are fighting for so many years to be free. So, take care, we will be here. No, we have another meeting, but we will go on. We will go on, and I'm sure we will free Gaza and the occupied Palestine, not only Gaza, all the West Bank.
They had access to only one bathroom inside the embassy, which they had to show a French passport to use. They protested this, demanding toilets for all and urinals without borders, until outhouses were set up for them. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu came to meet with Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak while we were there. Local Egyptian groups organized a protest on the steps of the Journalists' Syndicate and invited us to join. partly to help ensure that there would be no police abuse of the Egyptian protesters. On New Year's Eve, the day of the originally scheduled Gaza Freedom March, 500 people marched a few hundred yards in Cairo's main square and then, stopped by police, sat in the square for much of the day, hanging banners demanding free Gaza over the heads of the police cordon. On New Year's Day, we moved the focus back to Israel with a flash protest at the Israeli embassy. That morning, we had resoundingly endorsed the Cairo Declaration, initiated by the South African delegation, which set out an ambitious program of continuing the struggle to end Israeli apartheid through a campaign of boycott, divestment, and sanctions. While our week of protest in Cairo succeeded in bringing world attention to the plight of Gaza and the deadly Israeli and Egyptian blockade of its borders, there's much to do when we return home.